Hello, my name is Richard Kearns, and today I'm going to be talking to you about social media and its negative effects on mental health. Social media is something that has rapidly become a part of everyone's life over the past decade. With the production of technology, social media has become a part of a lot of people's lives. Some would say social media is a good thing. While that may be true, social media isn't all that good. Social media is part of the world that we live in now, but it is something that has a negative effect on people's lives. What is social media? I would describe social media as the online outlets that we as humans use to interact with each other over the internet. According to a definition written on the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, they describe social media as forms of electronic communication, such as websites for social networking and microblogging, through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content, such as videos. These outlets that we use to communicate through are apps like TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, and even Instagram. A lot of people all over the world use these apps every day to communicate with one another. Social media hasn't been around for very long. According to a timeline published on the SIRS Issues Researcher on February 29, 2024, it has on there that the first thing to be considered social media was the creation of AOL Instant Messenger. This whole timeline has a lot of different important events on it, including things that have happened more recently in time revolving around child online safety. Social media has changed a lot over the past 2 decades. According to the same timeline that was published on the SIRS Issues Researcher on February 29th, 2024, it shows on there that the earliest form of social media was the AOL Instant Messenger. As you keep looking down the timeline, you can see that one of the most recent things that has happened with social media was the rebranding of Twitter to X. This just shows that social media can change no matter how old or new it is. Why is social media a negative thing? For me in my own life, I feel like social media is the only way I can get in contact with people. This has taken a toll on my mental health in a negative way. If social media is taking a toll on my mental health, then imagine the kind of effect that it's having on other people's mental healths. According to a newspaper written by author Louis Villard on July 26, 2023, they state, Lemke explained that the social media has taken the work out of how we connect with other human beings, placing that effort online and adding 3 major ingredients: novelty, accessibility, and quantity, making scrolling a very potent drug. What they are talking about in this newspaper is the idea of endless scrolling, which is what a lot of people do. I would define it as scrolling for hours on end. For example, at night before I go to bed, I scroll on TikTok for hours and hours and hours, which ultimately takes away my sleeping time. This becomes a huge problem because then in turn, it makes the next day really difficult for me mentally. There's a line between using social media in a positive way and then using it in a negative way. Both of these ways have an effect on your mental health. According to a newspaper written by author Mauve Walsh on March 12, 2020, they state, if you're a person who uses social media for more than 5 hours a day, if you're a person who compares yourself to others while on social media, that's not great for anxiety or depression. They are basically saying that it's okay to use social media, but if you're using it for a long time, or using it to compare yourself to other people, then it can become a problem. This ties into mental health because if you follow all of the models on Instagram, and all you see on Instagram are people with perfect bodies, then you might start feeling negatively toward your own body. This isn't a good thing at all. Another issue with social media is becoming addicted to it. According to a newspaper written by author Hannah Devlin on January 2nd, 2024, she states, almost half of British teenagers say they feel addicted to social media. According to findings that come amid mounting pressures for big tech companies to be held accountable for the impact of their platforms on users. This is obviously a problem. I say this because if you're too busy checking all of your social media platforms, then when do you have time to do your homework? When do you have time for your personal life and hobbies? To me, this is a big example of why social media affects mental health in a negative way. Being addicted to it isn't any good for you at all. There are many ways that we can protect our mental health while using social media. One of these ways is by cutting down on screen time. In the world we live in now, it is very hard to get completely rid of social media. This is simply because everybody uses it in some form to communicate, but there are also ways that we can preserve our mental health. According to a newspaper written by author Kashmir Hill on January 9th, 2024 at the New York Times, they state, "So this December, I made a radical change. I ditched my $1,300 iPhone 15 for a $108 Orbic Journey, a flip phone. It makes phone calls and texts, and that was about it." They made a decision to get an older phone in order to cut down on their screen time. Having a huge amount of screen time can affect you in a negative way. I know for me, if I spend too much on my screen, then I find myself really groggy and in a really bad mood. I truly think this is because of everything that I see that goes on social media. One way we can improve mental health on social media is by using it strictly for connecting with family and friends. According to an article issued on Springer Link in January 2024, they state, collectively, beneficial effects of social media are linked to its use as means of connecting with others, especially through enabling easier connection and communication with family, friends, and new people. This is a really easy way to make sure your mental health is in a decent condition. Instead of looking at all of the people who are being canceled and catching up on the latest gossip, you can instead look at what your family and friends have been up to. In my opinion, this is just going to overall help your mental health. Another way we can improve mental health on social media is by not being on social media for a certain period of time. According to an article written by author Renee Yassin on June 24th, 2023, they state, dopamine detoxing is a recent trend that aims to reset your brain's reward center by giving it a break from things that usually give you dopamine rush, social media included. This is a really great way to preserve your mental health while using social media. Not only are you detoxing yourself from an unhealthy addiction, but you're also keeping your mental health from declining. To finish up today, I talked about what social media it is, what started it, what it looks like today, why social media is a negative thing, and different ways that we can protect our mental health while using social media. I hope everyone can take something away from this speech and apply it to their own lives, whether that's limiting screen time or even deleting some of your social media accounts that you don't need. It is super important to take care of yourself and your mental health while on social media. Thank you for listening.